Thank you for joining me for this second installment of inquiries that we're making into our businesses in order to make them more sustainable and equal and community oriented. This video is an inquiry into trauma-informed practices in your organization. And so I'm going to start out with just an explanation of what trauma is and what it looks like and how it manifests in the body, and how it manifests in behaviors. And then we'll talk about how to incorporate that into your work as a leader. Trauma exists in many ways. There's big T trauma, very life-changing and difficult events where you can kind of like point to a moment something happened, it was big and it was traumatic. And then there's something that's called little t trauma, which are these smaller traumas that happen all the time. When I talk about trauma, what I really am talking about in the body is stress, and stress that is on the body. When the body is in a state of stress, and that can happen in a variety of different ways, right? If the body is not receiving the nutrients that it needs, it will be in a state of stress. If the body is perceiving an attack, it will go into a space of stress. And so when stress happens to the body reacts by sending the blood that's normally nourishing all of the organs out into the limbs in order that the body can react. And so when the blood goes from nourishing the organs and out into the limbs, it's no longer nourishing the body. And so when people are in a state of stress for a prolonged period of time, then it starts to manifest itself as problems with the body. The body tells you that things are going on and that it needs help. That can look like fatigue. It can look like insomnia. It can look like stomach pain or back pain or different like diarrhea, constipation, like all different kinds of things. It can manifest as autoimmune disorders. And often when the body is experiencing stress and it's manifesting through these different symptoms, the medical system that we have has difficulty treating that. When we look at when a person is in this state of stress, not only are they, especially if it's a long period of stress, going to manifest in these different bodily ways, it will manifest in different kinds of reactions that happen when an event happens. One of those reactions is flight. So that's when something happens and you just run away. Like I will tend to, like, if things are crazy, I will just like run or, like hide in my car, or I'll like get in my bed and like cover my head, or I'll go into a bathroom and close the door and just like kind of be by myself. That's flight. Another one is fight. So fighting, it manifests, as physical fighting and also as arguments. So that's another response, a response to stress. There is freezing. Freezing happens when you hear something and then you just have nothing to do or say back. It's just like you're stuck. That's freezing. And then another response is fawning. And fawning is something that is habitually a part of the workplace, which is where you agree with the stressor, with the person that is attacking you or the person where the threat is coming from, so that you don't have to actually talk about the problem, because that would just increase the stress and the threat. So you agree with whatever it is and you placate the person in order to not have to talk about what the real issue is for you, because for you that seems more stressful than just agreeing and going along with. In difficult situations, we're moving into sort of the application here, right? Before I get there, the first thing is to look at how are your people doing? How much stress do they have that is related to their work And if you know about stress that is happening in their lives, like how much is there? Is it to the point where people are manifesting physical symptoms that could be related to stress? And to look at the workload, and not just the workload, but the alignment between the person and what brings them joy and happiness and the work that they are doing and their ability to be self-actualized and to grow in the ways that they want to grow. We as leaders in business are here to support and to nourish and help and grow the people that work with us, the people that work in our companies. If there is a disconnect between the person's drive and their purpose and their work, then that's something to look at, because that creates stress. If there is just work all the time, like you're not allowing the person to go through all of the different cycles that there are of service, which are, springtime of planting and summer of flourishing and growing and fall of harvesting and winter of resting, and allowing people to have all of those seasons and the time of rest especially, which is not prioritized in work typically in our culture, that creates stress because we're not meant to be in spring all the time. We're not meant to be planting and harvesting and planting and harvesting and planting all the time. We're meant to be going through the height of summer too and the depth of winter, and to have these places for pause. As you're looking at the amount of stress that people are experiencing, you can also then look at the conversations that you're having. And when you're having these conversations with a trauma-informed lens, you can notice when these reactions are happening, when the fight reaction happens, when the flight reaction happens, when the freeze reaction happens, and when the fawn reaction happens. And when these responses are dominating the behaviors and the actions in the conversation, it's not the time for you to have that conversation. It's time to pause and to resource the body and to come back to the conversation at a later time when both of you are able to be present and really fully engaged. And so this is an inquiry, a guidance into the beginnings of having a trauma-informed approach to the way that you are working with your people and with your team. And if you have questions about this, I'm here for you as a resource. Please reach out.